started. So I am Mallory Crooks. I'm going to take off my mask. I do not have COVID. I just have a little head cold. So I just want to be respectful to everyone here. So a couple of housekeeping things. We are here today in person. I know we have a lot of people joining us from Zoom. So we have captions up with Zoom. We also have a couple iPads loaded up if anyone in the room needs captioning. That's all set to go. So we're just gonna, oh, and also for anyone in the room, our bathrooms are right out here to the left, and then take another quick left, and then there's the men's and women's. And we have an in-person presentation and also Zoom presentation by Josh, and so we'll just have him share the screen when it's time to go. We'll do about 15-20 minutes per presenter, and then we'll do some Q&A. And if you have any Q&A, feel free to drop it in the chat. And then we'll go from there. So for the people in the room, do we want to do quick introductions, starting with Andrea?
Sure. So I'm Andrea Marley. I am a teacher of the visually impaired and a certified vision rehabilitation therapist. And I'm from the Sight Center of Northwest Ohio.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Hunt Thomas. I work here at the Ability Center. I'm the Director of Advocacy and also the Disability Rights Attorney.
Hi, I'm Quinn Thomas. I'm the facilitator for People First of Toledo. I'm the executive assistant at Courageous Community Services.
Hi, I'm Karen Hopkinson, and I'm with Great Lakes Publishing.
I'm Brittany Maddox. I work here at the Ability Center. I'm a disability rights advocate.
I'm Brittany Pasco. I am the Director of Equity and Inclusion for Washington Local Schools.
Valerie Fatiga, Disability Manager for the City of Toledo.
Man, everybody has a title. I'm Seth Holliger. I'm just here to observe, learn. I work at the Cleveland Sight Center. I'm a call center agent there, but I'm visually impaired and I just want to learn a little bit more about web accessibility.
I'm Megan Reigel and I work at the Sight Center.
I'm Hunter Morrison. I am the accessibility accommodation, no, what am I? The academic accommodation specialist at the University of Toledo.
I'm Will. I'm just here to support Mallory.
Our tech and AV guy. So real quick, we do have some people with visual impairment, so we're going to try to be as descriptive as possible in our presentation, obviously. And then we're going to be able to send the presentation out digitally. Actually, I can do that while we're on the line now. So without further ado, Andrea, do you want to take the lead?
Sure. So welcome everybody. So I recently went through some coursework to become a CADIS, which is a Certified Assistive Technology Instructional Specialist. And I learned quite a bit of information about how to make things more accessible, especially when it comes to web accessibility and making documents accessible, things like that. So there's quite a few really great resources out there. I'm going to be referencing one or two of them today. And I just want to make it clear that I'm not most of this information is pulled directly from this source that I'm referencing today, which is the W3C website. So today we're going to kind of get an introduction to some basic web accessibility principles and guidelines that are necessary in developing accessible websites. So on our first main slide, we have this, just for any of our viewers that are not able to see the slide, it is a screenshot of an Amazon webpage. So as you can imagine, an Amazon webpage has quite a few different areas that a person with a disability, especially someone who might be using a screen reader, might need to access, for example. So anybody online and anybody in the room, just in thinking about an Amazon webpage, or if you're able to see this slide, what do you think might cause problems with accessibility? And feel free to shout it out or write it in the comment box, and Mallory can read them out to me. I wanted to make this as interactive as possible. Coloring's off.
Coloring with a contrast.
Yeah.
Or partially. Small pictures, grouped together in small writing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Claire says color contrast, text size, image description, alt text, or lack thereof.
Exactly. Yes. Anything else?
That rotating thingy at the top, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, so I don't know the official term for it either, but it's the picture that tends to flash or cycle through on certain web pages. So some of those can cause problems because, you know, those, especially for individuals who have a vision impairment or are using a screen reader, especially, or anybody even maybe that has a seizure disorder, that may cause some problems with strobing, could cause some problems. And the same things with, we need to be able to access edit boxes as well. So imagine you're trying to navigate to the edit boxes and trying to be able to figure out what those edit boxes are. So, you know, those are all important things. So those are all things that I just wanted to start it off with that so we can kind of like pick our own brains first off. So next, go ahead and turn to the next slide, Will. So on this next slide, I give a definition for what's known as WCAG 2.1, and so that's spelled WCAG. It's an acronym basically, so it's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So these are all really good rules of thumb to go by, to follow when you're trying to develop a web page. And so this web page can be referenced in order to get guidelines for how to develop your own web pages. And then it also has additional resources that you can click on and access. So I wanted to give you that definition of what that stands for. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So on this slide, we have, if you can remember the term POUR, P-O-U-R. It's a quick and easy way for me, especially, to remember the important components of the WCAG 2.1. And so the different components for WCAG that make up the word POUR is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So those are the major components. And I'm going to go into a little more detail about each one of those on the upcoming slides. But so if you can just remember that little, I always think of ways of trying to remember the different components. So I love that word POUR. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So the first, this slide here is the some different ideas for how to make things perceivable. So we have providing, let's see, one second, I'm gonna make my accessibility larger for my own self. So we want to provide text alternatives. So when we're providing text alternatives, imagine if you're, one of those lovely little things that I always hate to encounter when I'm going to a web page is a CAPTCHA. Can you imagine a CAPTCHA, how frustrating those can be? So that is one thing that you will definitely have to make accessible. So you'll need to have different types of formats available, whether that's an audio format, whether that's, you know, closed captioning, whatever, you need to have some type of alternative format. Then we have providing captioning and all the other alternatives for maintained or different multimedia. So as some of you had mentioned, we have captioning today for anyone who has a hearing impairment. And so that's extremely important. If you have a web page that has videos on it, you'll want to make sure that any of those videos have closed captioning, for anything that is being provided auditorily, just because, you know, if a person has a hearing impairment, they're not going to be able to equally access that video. And same thing with being able to access those videos using a screen reader. You want to be able to have a transcript of those available. So if you have a video made, you'll want to have that printout of everything that was stated in that video, so somebody can reference that in case they're not able to access it visually. Then we want to create content that can be presented. Create content that can be presented in different ways. So that kind of goes along with the first one, where you want to be able to have multi ways of presenting it. So for example, if you have, you know, you want to be able to adjust your font size, you want to be able to adjust your contrast, you don't want to have things that are too cluttered. So if you have, I love websites where there's pictures all over the web pages and it's just like too much. So less is usually better in most cases. So just think of ways that you can perceive the information the easiest. And then last, make it easier for users to use and hear content. So again, same kinds of principles. So, but these kind of guidelines will help you in figuring out how to make some of your content more perceivable to whoever's using your web page. There's quite a bit of information on a web page that is inaccessible. You have headings, you have links, you have to worry about reading orders. All of those things need to be analyzed. And so one website that I put in our references for today is the WebAIM website. And WebAIM will give you some different different ways of checking your websites, your documents, and they also provide training. Next slide. Okay. Next we have operable. So think about how the website operates. We have to make all functionality available from the use of a keyboard. So imagine everybody is most people are using a mouse. If you can see well, you're using a mouse to access it. We also want to make sure that somebody can use a keyboard, somebody can use voice access, but especially a keyboard. Can it be accessed using keyboard commands with a screen reader? So that's an important thing to think about. Next we have giving users enough time to read information and use content. So that's huge, because I can't tell you how many times I've been given a certain time frame when I've had to enter a password before something times out, and then you have to start all over again. So having enough time to read what you need to read before things time out, that's huge. Then we have not using content that causes seizures. So we talked about the strobing effect with some of those scrolling pictures. Anything that flashes is going to cause possible seizure activity, so you may not want any of that. And that's also disturbing to not only people that have seizure activity, but also to people that have vision impairments as well. It can cause migraines, it can cause floaters, and it's just very difficult to see things. Then we have help users navigate and find content. So again, make sure your links work properly. Make sure your headings are labeled appropriately. If it just says button, if you're using a screen reader, I can't tell you how many times I have used a screen reader and it's not labeled properly because, you know, it hasn't been formatted correctly. And then you navigate to that button and it just says button, unlabeled button. So same thing with the edit boxes. It'll just say blank, 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 or edit, edit, edit. And it won't, the box will not be labeled. So again, very important to worry about. And you can actually get assistance with, if this seems very daunting to you, you can get assistance with making sure that your websites are accessible. You can reach out to one of your local agencies, such as the Site Center or some independent contractors, and they can help with testing out your websites to see how accessible they are. And then make it easier to use inputs other than the keyboard. So I mentioned being able to use maybe a switch. So anybody that has additional motor disabilities, they may have trouble using a keyboard, may have trouble using a voice and a mouse, but they are able to use a switch. So make sure that you have, you know, some different options available. Especially, you think about all of our new smartphones, we can operate most of our smart devices with our voice. So, you know, things like that, make sure that that you can use different modes to operate it. Next slide. And then we have making things understandable. So we want to make text readable. We mentioned having different options for changing your font size, make it larger, make it smaller. If you need to change the color. Then we want to make sure the content appears and operates in a predictable manner. So we want it to do what we expect it to do, not just take us somewhere. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm definitely not an expert in every single one of these features on here, but I just figured I would share some information about most of these. And then we would say, help users avoid and correct mistakes. So maybe having an autocorrect feature is sometimes helpful if they misspell something, things like that. Okay. Next slide. And then we have robust. So when we think about robust, we think of, is your website up to par with the most current technology? If somebody is using the latest iPhone or the latest MacBook or the latest Windows computer with the latest screen reader software, whatever, are they going to be able to access your website? I always worry about compatibility issues. So that is one thing that is very, very important. Robust doesn't have a lot of bullet points underneath it, you know, different components underneath it, but that's the most important one, is to make sure that everything is compatible. Compatibility is huge. Okay, next slide. On this next slide, I basically provide the web page, and I provide if you get this PowerPoint in your email, all of these links that are provided on these slides are clickable. I made sure that they were accessible, so hopefully they will still work for you when you get this PowerPoint. But you should be able to click on the link on this slide and it will take you to the WebAIM website, where you can look at upcoming accessibility trainings that are available for different things. They have some for Zoom. They have some for just specifically accessibility training, and they have some for what's known as A11Y, which is also accessibility. I recently took a really, really good one through ACV REP, known as the A11Y Chromebook certification. So that I highly recommend that one as well. Okay, and then on my last slide, I just have all of my references that I referred to in providing you some of this basic information. this really only scratches the surface. We could talk for hours and hours about things that need to be made accessible, but the biggest thing is to make sure that your links are labeled as links, that your headings are labeled as headings, your boxes are fillable, that they are labeled, that your pictures are accessible, that your videos are accessible, that you provide everything on your website should be accessible in some shape or form for every person that tries to access your webpage.
And Jen, we have a question. If the training is free or if there's a cost to that training?
Most of the ones that are on the WebAIM website that I noticed do have a cost associated for it. Unfortunately, there's a number of them and they keep updating it, but some of them did look a little pricey. But the one on, I didn't put the ACVREP one on here. That's the association. I can never remember the acronym. Somebody can type it in the chat box for me. Probably Danny, if she's on here watching. I can never remember the exact acronym for that one, but it's the ACVREP certification website. They do provide a Chromebook accessibility. It's like an A11Y certification course. At the time when I took it, it was free. I don't know, I can't guarantee that it is still free, but it is a really good course to take, especially if you have any interest in learning Chromebook accessibility. But so this last page, like I said, just has all my references that I referred to. Like I said, I don't have the ACVREP link on here, but if you are interested in that course for Chromebook accessibility, I can definitely try to find that for you and send it to Mallory and we can send it out to you.
Andrew, do you think that we could have, if you know the list of independent contractors that could help with building the websites, do you have some of those people?
I do know, I know of a few people that have tested websites in the past. Okay. I could probably give you some names if needed.
That'd be great to put that in the email, because I know at least for myself and some people on the call, like we are not the ones coding it, right? So we just have to know that it works, but like I'm not the one coding it, so I have to be able to find the right person to know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
And so one thing that I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about this last night when I was kind of finalizing everything. One thing that I love to do is beta test. So I actually did some beta testing for Progressive, and they requested people from the agency that I used to work for to come out to their facility, and we sat down and they were developing their applications on their phone, on the phones, like the mobile app, and they were developing their web pages, and they wanted to make sure that it was fully accessible. And in order to guarantee that it was accessible to somebody that was using screen magnification and a screen reader, they had 2 or 3 of us come out there and test it out, make sure it worked, and then give them feedback. And there were quite a few things that they needed to fix. So just even some beta testing like that is highly recommended. So, even if you can't have somebody necessarily come out and double check your accessibility, even get somebody that's a user come out and beta test for you. It's a really good idea.
Right, and then tell the coders what to change.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
yeah. Okay, any other questions that we have in the room? Yeah, Karen?
So I'm here because our company builds websites. And when we're looking at accessibility, we use Accessibility. And I wanted to see if you had any input on that plugin software for computers.
Yeah, actually Josh is our second speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, so he could probably give you some really great information, and they do have a link for Accessibility on I believe on the WebAIM website. So you should be able to get some information on that as well for different resources for checking your website on there. There's quite a few different resources. I didn't even get a chance to dive into everything when I went through my coursework, but there's a lot of great information on there. Especially if you're trying to it's got information for everything, developing web pages, Word documents, PDFs, just about everything. So,
Thank you.
We got another question in the chat. What's your perception on some tools like Wave and accessibility insights. Like, do you think those work? Do they catch everything?
It's touch and go.
You could be honest.
Yeah. I think it's touch and go. Yeah.
So you found that there's things that they missed.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And then it looks like just sharing disability networks and SILs often offer accessibility consultations. That's just a note in the chat from Claire. Any other questions? No, and one thing I want to implement moving forward is if anyone comes up with questions later, I have all your emails now, I have you captive. So now I can get the questions and then get the answers to you from our speakers. So, all right. Well, thank you, Andrea. That was awesome.
Yeah, or if you even want to ask questions about, accessibility from a user standpoint, there are a lot of websites that I go to where I'm just like, I don't know why I'm so frustrated, but it's mostly because I have to keep switching my color contrast back and forth because half the web page is one color and then the other half of the web page is another color. So if you're using color inversion, you have to constantly switch back and forth. So it gets a little frustrating, but So I'm happy to answer questions from a user standpoint. And I'm sure that Seth, I'm calling you out. Yes. He could give you, some insights as well as a screen reader user.
Awesome. So next up we have Josh. So we are going to put him on the main screen here, and then he's going to tell us about Accessibility and a plugin that hopefully could be the answer to all of our prayers. Right, Josh?
It's an option. We'll keep going down the road, but so great to be able to be here today with everyone. Let me share my screen.
Can you turn them up?
Yeah.
All right, so
better?
That's better.
Okay, cool.
Great to be here today, everyone. And so just really quick, my name is Josh Fazel, and I'm the Community Relations Manager at Accessibility. And I'll be diving in a little bit today about my story. And before I kind of really begin, I just want to do a description of myself. I'm 37 years old. I am Caucasian. I am wearing a white collared shirt with a green sweater. And in my background, I have some pictures of my kids, and I have a quad stick in front of my mouth that allows me to control my computer. In today's presentation, I also will be diving more about web accessibility and the gaps, talking about Accessibility as a company, going over a demo of the Access widget, and talking about our nonprofit partnership program. So a little bit about me. For the first 18 years of my life, I was a happy, active childhood. You name it, any sport, I'd try to play it. Any adventure I'd go on. I wouldn't say any girl, but I loved chasing girls, loved having fun, loved being a kid. And it was a really happy childhood. And then when I was 18 years old on August 1st, so this was 18 years ago, it's now half my life, I went to a family vacation to the beach, and a wave picked me up, threw me over my boogie board, and slammed me on my head. And that day I shattered my neck. Sorry. So pop up. Oh, that's weird. Something's going on. Someone's trying to take over the screen. All right. So that day I shattered my neck. Will, are you? Can you tell me what's going on?
It looks.
You're jumping. Something's jumping. Is trying to control my slides.
You want me to take it over from our end? We have your presentation.
No, I tweaked a few of the slides this morning.
Okay. don't have anybody that has access.
Oh, I know what's going on. Love technology. All right, I think we can get it from here.
Are we good?
Right. So I spent the next 3.5 months after breaking my neck in critical unit, inpatient, sort of trying to survive. They had to put a ventilator in my neck, which took away my ability to breathe for 5 weeks. I'm sorry, ability to breathe and speak for 5 weeks. And after that, I was able to regain my voice and get transferred to inpatient rehabilitation, where I learned how to survive as a quadriplegic. And really, I was forced to relearn everything, going from a 185-pound college tennis player to a 135-pound quadriplegic over those first 5 weeks. It was life-changing. And what I quickly learned when I returned home was, before my injury, I did things 1 million ways. And after my injury, I now get to do it 1 million new ways, in different ways. And it's just a matter of being able to experience life and have a willingness to try, a little creativity, get outside your comfort zone. And truly, most anything is still possible. It's what I've learned in life. I also learned to become my own best advocate. When I regained my voice, I wanted to make sure that every word counted from that moment on. And that's when I became an advocate for life. And becoming an advocate for life is always about learning everything you can about your environment and taking control, because nobody is going to fight harder for you than you're going to fight for yourself in life. So becoming an advocate and being there for yourself, it's life-changing when you can start being able to do that for yourself. This allowed me to go to undergrad, then graduate magna cum laude from law school without ever flipping a page with my fingers. I'm now a medical malpractice attorney. I'm also the founder of the Determined to Heal Foundation and SpinalPD.com. We have over, I believe, 25,000 videos broken down by physical functionality for people living with paralysis to have mentors to show them what's possible. And I'm also the community relations manager at Accessibility. I'm most proud of being a family man. I fell in love and have the most incredible stepdaughter, Fable. And this past year, we were able to bring into the world, or Katie did, Calder. And the coolest part about Calder is today is his birthday. So he turned 1 year old today. I'm just happy to share that with everybody. I learned a lot about, through my paralysis and my voice, about the advocacy game. It's so important to recognize a problem, strategize a solution, create a call to action, and empower in numbers. We are stronger together as a community than we are as individuals. When I wheel down the streets of Washington, D.C., people turn their heads, a few people here and there. But if I wheel down the street with fellow advocates and with other disabilities, with wheelchairs, with canes, everybody's turning their head. And we become a louder force to make change possible. The pandemic, over the last 18 years, I focused a lot on breaking down barriers to independent living. I sit on the State Independent Living Council. I love all my CILs in Maryland and all my CILs across the country. I also try to transform transportation across the country through a fuel service app that allows drivers to connect with gas stations. They come out with get out in 2 years, 5,000 gas stations across the country. Another area is around employment. It's so important for us to have the ability to have to earn a living and be within the employment world and have a voice there. Lastly, especially during the pandemic days, my eyes were open to how bad it was getting around web accessibility. and I decided to do something about it. Andrea did a great job talking about WCAG, so I don't need to spend too much time here. And with Web Accessibility Gap, the AIM website that she was talking about, that shows today that less than 3% of websites meet accessibility guidelines. It's a horrible statistic. Yes, it means, you know, a few million websites have web accessibility, but it also means hundreds of millions of websites do not. And we have to do something to change that. And, you know, with 61 million Americans, a million American adults being recognized by the CDC as having a disability, that's 25% of the US. And it's truly not a matter of if, but when a disability will either impact you individually or someone that you love or care about. The three main factors that cause web accessibility gaps are operational, financial, and educational. And with blocking, within the operational gap, a lot of times this comes down to there's not enough skilled manual coders in the world and developers. We need an army of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of coders, and we don't have enough that really know about WCAG and bringing accessibility to websites. We're also, remediating websites for operationally can be a daunting task, and it can be overwhelming for businesses. And then when they see the price gaps of being able to do the remediation, that becomes a huge factor in a lot of businesses getting scared away, which, if they just did the best practices from the beginning and built the website with accessibility from the start, that would make the price so much easier over time to make their website accessible. The best practice is always to do it from the beginning. Best practice is to always make sure whoever took a photo and whoever put it on the site is the storyteller of that photo. But the fact is that's not often the case. And then you end up having an image on a website and it says blank, 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 image, image, image. And that's a horrible way of being able to have someone have a good experience on your website. So about 2 years ago, when doing the advocacy game around this, I'm a big fan of technology, and technology can always get better and better with time, and especially when it has voices of people with disabilities having a seat at the table to be a part of that journey. So that's why Accessibility started in 2016. I joined 2 years ago to help be a part of their journey and to do whatever I could to make them a stronger, more effective company and to truly create the change that I believe they have. Their mission, they have the money backing, they have the talent, they have all the great pieces of the puzzle. And as a community relations manager, I very much wanted to join their journey to bring that to that next level. It's been an honor to be a part of it. So, so much with Accessibility, this company is developing side by side with people with disabilities and leading experts in the accessibility world. Since joining their team, we now have people with disabilities at every single level of the corporation, of the company. And that's just made an incredible impact. What we've been able to do in the last 2 years has transformed who we are as a company. We are now trusted by over 160,000 websites worldwide and growing. We're the #1 automated web accessibility solution, and we're very, very proud of that. We also provide a lot of other professional services outside of our Access widget, and that's the file accessibility, where the media accessibility, closed captioning, and consulting services as well that are laid out here. So right now, I want to do a quick demo of the Access widget and show you what it's all about. So I'm going to bring my keyboard on the screen. So when you go to a website, especially for someone like me with limited movement in the paralysis community, I love using a keyboard because every movement of mine has to count because I fatigue throughout the day. So when I go to a website, I like to go on and tab, and then you have a menu, right? When you go through a menu, there's drop downs. But what happens if the website's not accessible and you tab through? Right now, clothing right here is supposed to have a drop down. I just tabbed through, it didn't activate it. This is an inaccessible website right here. And I also love using shortcuts. If I tap on F, it should go to forums. M, it should go to menus. H, headers. And B, buttons. Nothing happened because this website's not accessible. But with the access widget at Accessibility, when it's added onto the site, if I start tabbing, it immediately recognizes that a keyboard user is here wanting to experience the website. So on the top left, you see skip to content, skip to menu, skip to footer, and all of a sudden it activated the Accessibility tool, the access widget tool. So on the bottom left of the screen, it could be on the bottom right, it really can be anywhere. There's an accessibility icon that just activated the keyboard navigation profile. And I'll show you more later about that. But so now that the tool is activated, I'm now going through the menu. And now, guess what? I'm able to get to the sub menu. Let's say I wanted to go to the header. I can now go through H and go through all the headers. Back to the menu, I hit M in the menu on the bottom of the screen. I want to do forms. It jumps me to the forms now. If I want to do buttons, I can now go through all the buttons on the site, which is great. So now let me show you a little bit more about the tool. So if I reset the settings, we're looking at a screen right now, which this type of website is your typical kind of, selling of products type site. Right now on the bottom right of the screen, there's a GIF that's creating blinking lights and a scroller, which, Andrew was saying, these can create epileptic events. So there's a profile, there's 6 profiles that this access widget has. One is the seizure state profile. You click on that, it then activates and shuts down all blinking lights, and it reduces colors. So to prevent epileptic events. For vision impairment, it makes everything bigger and enhances the visuals of the website. ADHD, it gives you a focus bar so you can focus on what you want to read. Cognitive disability profile. This one is great. It basically highlights all the different areas of where you can focus or click on. And then with keyboard navigation and with blind users, it works both with keyboard and screen readers to help create a better experience. On top of that, it has where you can customize it to the next level of changing the alignment of text, the size of everything, the content, scaling. You can change the text color of everything. You can adjust the title colors, the background colors. You can bring it into a read mode. So you just have the different things that you can read on a site. You can hide images. There's so many different things that you can do with the Access widget tool. For me, with being paralyzed below my shoulders, it gives me kind of new abilities, new superpowers to choose how I want to access a site. And some sites I want to access one way, and other sites I want to access another way. And this gives me that option. And anybody, I don't care if you have a disability or not, having options is a good thing. One of the other things we were talking earlier about with Andrea was doing audit tooling. Accesscan has a great audit tool where you just put your website in and then you click get audit, and it does a free PDF breakdown of everything on your website and tells you where you're doing great and where you're falling short. And that's so important for any website user or owner to be able to know where they're at within their accessibility journey. Because the fact is it's not, there's no checkbox to make your website accessible and done. It's a journey. Again, there's 61 million people with disabilities in the US that are adults. And to do more and to connect with them, Accessibility started their nonprofit partnership program. And this so much has to do with educational impact. What can we do to educate the world that accessibility matters? And how can we make sure that we can do better to serve that 25% population, bring the 3% to 5%, to 10%, to 20%, to 50%, and more. We have to do more to educate business owners. The people with disabilities are powerful consumers with their wallets, and that they deserve to have an opportunity to have the same experiences as everyone else. There's so much that we can teach the world about accessibility, both on the storefront and in the digital world. So that's what Accessibility is trying to do with bridging the gap through educational awareness. And that's the nonprofit partnership program. Operational and financial gap, helping through Access widget. Right now, our nonprofit partnership program, we're working with over 500 nonprofits around the world to raise awareness. And that's as a community relations manager, I get the honor to be able to work with them, and it's so much fun. And lastly, just want to do this really quick video, talking a little bit more about
inclusivity is key in today's world. It motivates participation in every aspect of everyday life. It opens doors and bridges the gap for 15% of the global population living with a disability. To rally for inclusivity, we work side by side with the community and provide resources and tools, educational activities like webinars and podcasts, along with technical services and free access to tech solutions. Let us promote and sustain accessible environments. We partner with hundreds of disability-focused organizations to raise awareness and educate the public on inclusion. We spotlight community members, advocates, and leaders who make a difference with their knowledge and stories to tell. We actively support them in their efforts at worldwide events anywhere they make their voices heard. Together, we champion change, which includes everyone, no matter the time or place. Together, we can make the world a more inclusive space.
And with that being said, the Access widget for for-profit companies is there's a subscription base per month to be able to have it on your site. It scans your site every 24 hours looking for accessibility issues, and then add more accessibility and usability to every single and whenever there's that impacts one site, we're actually able to then update that issue or that bug to the 160,000 plus customers, rather than having to go in each and every single website to make the fix, which allows us to be a really powerful, scalable solution for web accessibility. One of the things I'm most proud of with our founders who started Accessibility is that, talking with them, recognizing the fact that nonprofits of the world, especially those that are disability focused, can't always have the financials to be able to bring in the accessibility to their vulnerable populations. So they actually have made for disability focused nonprofits, the Access widget tool is completely free forever for those disability focused nonprofit organizations. And being able to join us with the nonprofit partnership program, we can be able to get that for you guys. So this is my last page. This says reach out to us to learn more. So you can reach me. My personal email is josh.basil@gmail.com, or you can contact nonprofit@accessibility.com to learn more about the nonprofit partnership program. Or you can email me about it and we'll make that going. And it also says visit us at accessibility.com/partners/nonprofit. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions in the room here or online? Good, check box.
No questions yet.
My name is Amanda. I work for a SIL in New Jersey. I was just private messaging Josh. I really love this. I would love to, I'm going to explore this more on my own and present it to my SIL, but I would love to connect with me and my supervisor and Josh possibly, and maybe do a presentation for my SIL if that's possible.
Absolutely.
I think this is fabulous.
Nice to meet you, Amanda.
Nice to meet you too, Josh.
That's awesome. Any other questions? All right.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
So I am also a grad student on top of working at the university, and my thesis is focusing on web accessibility and how it is only focusing on like one kind of subset of disability when we need to look at other disability types to be inclusive. And so I'm just kind of curious if anybody has information, let me know. But like for me, like I know you were talking about visiting the WCAG website. Like I have a reading disability, and going on their website, it's just words of wall of words, and it gives me so much anxiety just visiting their website, even though it's quote unquote accessible.
Okay.
So if anybody has stuff I want to talk, I would love that.
Yeah, we can send it out via email, and then people can kind of chime in if they have specific thoughts.
Yeah.
We have another question. I was curious when checking your website, it lists one area as neutral for the results. Is that something that stays neutral, or would that change if your website was doing something better or worse? I found it really helpful to see what we were doing well, what we needed to work on. Josh, I think that's to you.
Okay. So it said neutral. Neutral. So sorry. Trying to figure. I'd love to see what that looked like. So I'm so sorry. So what's the question? How to?
If there's this, I wonder if there's a setting that is labeled under neutral. Perhaps. Maybe if we could get a screenshot and then I can get that to Josh and then we can answer that offline maybe.
That would be really helpful.
Okay. Awesome. All right, well, we are at time right now, so I want to make sure we're respectful. And if, like I said, if there's any other questions or resources that we want to share with this group, I really appreciate the time. This has been awesome for both Andrea and Josh. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. It's awkward to have like both in a room. Cool.